Hello and welcome back to Record of the Ear. I'm your host Ryan Lark, and this is a podcast where I shout all my opinions into the void about whatever album I'm listening to that week because frankly none of my friends want me to talk to me about it. This week's Record of the Ear is one that I'm particularly excited about because I think he is just an absolute superstar, and it is For Your Entertainment by Adam Lambert. I kind of just wanted something poppy and fun this week, and who does pop punk fun albums, music in general, than Adam Lambert? I mean, he's just absolutely incredible. I It's his debut studio album. And it was an instant hit. I mean, he had that kind of momentum going from American Idol, but it is standalone, like such a good fun album. You just put it on, you just want to dance and have a good time. So yeah. Before I get into any more about the album, I do just want to remind you to go ahead and listen to the album beforehand, or if you want, you can go track by track with me as I go through all of the songs on the album. But if you don't listen to it beforehand, it won't make any sense unless you know the album by heart, which would be kind of weird, but also impressive at the same time. So, yeah, just go ahead and listen to the album beforehand. I know it's like kind of a longer album. It's like an hour, but again, it really won't make sense unless you listen to it beforehand. So go ahead and listen to that and come back whenever you're ready. And I'm going to go ahead and get into the stats. So, like I said, this is his debut studio album. It's kind of like a pop rock dance album. It came out in 2009, fresh out of him coming on in second on American Idol. I know that's kind of weird. Like, it's one of those a Mandela effect things where everyone thinks that Adam Lambert won just because he's the more famous one, but he actually came in second, which is kind of crazy. I guess he didn't need the win, although I'm sure he would have liked it, but I think he should have won. I loved that season. But yeah, anyways, so it's 13 tracks, 3 singles, 57 minutes long. And no, wait, it's 13 tracks. Time for Miracles is a bonus track, so we're not going to count that one. Although it is a good song, I encourage you to check it out. But yeah, 13 tracks. The 3 singles on it were For Your Entertainment, What Do You Want From Me, and If I Had You, all 3 very iconic club bangers, basically. It did reach number 3 on Billboard 200. It didn't reach number 1, unfortunately. However, it sold almost 200,000 copies in its first week alone, and it is currently gold. What is it called? Gold status? I don't know. It's sold 500,000 copies so far, and I'm sure it'll go up a little bit, not much from now on. And it also was Grammy nominated for Best Male Pop Vocal Performance for What Do You Want From Me? I think, which was the lead single, if I remember correctly. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the tracks. The first track on the album is called Music Again, and it was written by Justin Hawkins. And this is a track all about finding the person you want to be with the rest of your life and kind of just like the instant connection, romance, and obsession that kind of comes with that, at least in like the honeymoon phase, for lack of a better term. This is such a fun way to start out the album. It's such a fun club hit that you could just like put it on and just everyone would dance to, but it also has such an awesome melody. I love that melody. Just like so catchy and so like rock pop melds perfectly together, and the lyrics are really fun and interesting. Obviously not a radical concept, but it's just the way that he does it, and I think the melody is here what like really stands out. The only thing that I don't love about this track is that let me back up. I love the way in the chorus where he goes, that phrase that goes, put your hand in mine, look at me in the eyes, and then he kind of goes up, he's like slowly increasing range, and when he finally hits that falsetto, it's like so incredible and gives such a fun like emotion, like kind of feeling to it. It's so cool. However, flip side of that, it also gets kind of annoying, and it's done too many times because he does it every single time the chorus comes on, instead of kind of I wish he did it maybe once or just once, because it just gets a little too repetitive and gets kind of annoying after a while, which is weird because I love it, but after like the third time you hear it, you're like, oh, okay, well, this is just annoying now, and like I get it, but it would have just added kind of a little more, made it more interesting if he just used it once, maybe in the breakdown or something towards the end of the song. But yeah, overall, I think it's a phenomenal song. I love it a lot. I love the phrase like make me want to listen to music again, because I think that's just a pretty way of phrasing like how you're obsessed with someone, like in love with someone, like finding hope and love again. Yeah, so as far as songwriting goes, I'm going to give it an 8.5, and for recording, I'm going to give it an 8. The second track on the album is called For Your Entertainment, the title track, and it was written by Lucas Gottwald and Claude Kelly. And this is kind of just like a song about like hot, dirty sex and like how you're kind of like not what they expected in a good way in the bedroom, and kind of like you're there to be subservient and like just give them what they want and like let it all out, which is just like a fun I mean, it's just like a fun topic like to let loose on, because once you start there, like you can really go anywhere because there's no limits at that point. It's just like nothing's off limits. This, I don't know why, it literally just sounds like it could be a Britney song. Like I don't, I just, and that kind of disappoints me because I think Adam has such a specific sound and style, and I just don't know. I don't know why he would pick this song. I don't know if he was pressured to by his label or whatever, but I don't understand how this fits in for him. Like it's not a complete misdirection. It's like, oh yeah, it makes sense that it's on it. It just, it doesn't sound uniquely him, and it sounds like a Britney song that he's just covering almost, even though it is his song. And for that to be the title track too, I guess it just doesn't really make sense for me. So I put a little more weight on that because it just doesn't make sense. Like, this is your title track. This is what the album is about. Like, this is the essence of the album. If you're gonna, like, if this is, you're gonna name the album after this. Like, I don't know if it's like, I just don't get it. I don't know. I don't want to keep rambling because I'm not making sense, but I think it's a good song. I think it's a very well written song. I like it a lot. It's got very catchy beats. It's got interesting lyrics, or interesting enough lyrics. I don't love them. I'm not crazy about it. I mean, those Britney banger club bangers are never like deep lyrically, but I mean, they don't have to be because they're very well written melodically. But yeah, so for songwriting, I'm gonna give it a 7, and for recording, I don't know why. I just don't think he gives it what I just don't think he can connect with it on the level that the song needs, which is very disappointing to me. So I'm gonna have to give it a lower score and make it like a 5.5. Like, he sounds good on it, it just doesn't sound correct, if that makes any sense. The third track on the album is What Do You Want From Me, and it was written by Pink, the singer Pink, Max Martin, and Shellback. Shellback's a producer, songwriter. That's just his flat name. And this song is all about going through the stress of changing personal environment and its effect on a relationship. This is, I think, the best song on the album, period. It starts off kind of fun and that kind of like eerie guitar, and then it's kind of just like that soft, like personal, direct conversation tone the whole time. And it's so, I mean, so relatable. It's so entertaining, to borrow a title or to borrow a phrase for the album. I just think it's such a good song, and it was such a good choice for him, because as opposed to For Your Entertainment, What Do You Want From Me is connects very well with Adam's style and personality and persona, if that's what you want to say. And maybe that's easy to say in retrospect, but it just seems more him, and he seems like he's having more fun, and I'm having more fun as a listener listening to this than I am for any other track on the album. So I think this is absolute smash hit. Obviously, it was very entertaining. A lot of people loved it. I think it's probably his biggest song. Maybe If I Had You is higher, but this is definitely like, I think number one minimum. So I'm gonna go ahead for songwriting. I'm gonna give it a I'm going to give it a 10. And for recording, I think the recording's great. I don't think it's perfect, though, so I'm going to give it a 9.5. The fourth track on the album is called Strut, and it was written by Cara DeGuardi, Greg Wells, and Adam Lambert himself. And this song is kind of just about being yourself, and that's like the only way to find like love, passion, whatever you want to call it. Just about like living yourself authentically. I think this is such a fun song. At first, when I was listening to it, I was like, maybe this is a little. I feel like I was like, if the tempo was a little bit quicker, just like slightly faster, I would have liked it better. But listening to it more, I'm like, oh no, this makes so much sense because it's kind of like that da like that rhythm and that beat makes so much sense for the strut because kind of like when you think of a strut, like when you're like each step is kind of like punched in that beat and it's that perfect like strut song. Like you could strut to it very easily because it's just so perfect for that beat. Yeah, and I think it sounds very, very Britney pop. I'm gonna keep coming back to this. Sounds very Britney pop at first, and then when he comes in, it's like, oh no, this does sound like an Adam Lambert song. Like he gives it so much more personality and so much more like grunginess. I don't know if that's the right word. It's like very, very punky, grungy punky. Just like the whining, it's not whining, what is it called? Just kind of like the way he drones on certain notes when he says like revolution and stuff like that. He kind of like goes like revolution and like draws it out and kind of like gives it that flair, which is very, very much his style, at least at the time. And that's why I think it really fits him. Not that it would be bad that it would sound like a Britney song, just it doesn't. It's very. I'm very happy that he's made it his own in that way because I feel like sometimes people who cover a lot of songs and maybe because of American Idol, he felt like he had to keep covering stuff or like cover stuff that sounds like it could be from another artist, whereas this is very obviously him. I think it's very difficult, side note, to make that transition now that I'm thinking about it. Like, how do you go from constantly covering artists to creating your own stuff while still maintaining your audience? Because if you've built up an audience like on American Idol, which is maybe why not very many people are successful off screen or post show, because they're known for constantly doing other people's stuff, and if that's all you're known for, it's hard to break out of that mold, you know? I don't know. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Like, you have to have a very, I guess you have to insert your personality into whatever song you're doing and make it your own. And if you're not making it your own and you're just doing a good version of what someone else has already done, it'll still be good, but you won't be able to be successful in your own style, or not as easily, which is probably why Kelly Clarkson, Carrie Underwood, Adam Lambert are able to be so successful and have been so successful. Jennifer Hudson, Jordan Sparks, even. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, that's a weird tangent. But as far as songwriting goes, to get back to Strut, I think songwriting. I don't love the songwriting on this. I think it's a little bit simple in a bad way, if I have to say that. I could have used a little more flair in the melody. It's really him that does a lot of the heavy lifting on this song. So as far as songwriting goes, I'm going to give it a 6.5. And for recording, I'm going to give it a 7.5. The fifth track on the album is called Soaked and was written by Matthew Bellamy. And this is a song all about the person you're sleeping with wanting to settle down with you and like kind of get more serious, and you don't really feel the same way, and you're kind of like, well, I feel like I should move on. Like, I'm not at the same place. Which I feel like is a relatable feeling to a lot of people. I don't know why. I think this song is so funny. Like, it's so melodramatic, so ridiculously like, oh, like it sounds like it's literally from like a play or like a musical. Like, especially the beginning with all the strings, it sounds like very Phantom of the Opera. It's just so funny. And then he comes in and it's like, is this like, did I actually hit like a I'd skip and like go to a different album or soundtrack or something like that, because it at first did not sound like it fit on the album, and then kind of like honestly about three quarter or like a quarter to halfway through this song, you're kind of like, oh, this does kind of like start to pick up and feel more like it belongs on the album. But at first I was kind of like, what is going on? Like I was just so confused, like this doesn't sound like it fits, like the style just didn't seem like it fit with the rest of the tracks. But I've got to say, I really like this song. I really like it. He's got some great vocals on here. And I think the lyrics are so interesting and fun. Just the term soaked, used to like kind of evoke that like wet blanket kind of feels, almost like you don't want to be with them. It's like kind of like uncomfortable, like because soaked, like obviously no one's, unless you're in a pool, it's like when you're soaked, you're not comfortable. And it's like, oh, I kind of like I'm itching to get out of here. I just think it's fun imagery. As far as songwriting goes, I love the melody. He's got great, just like the kind of long drawn out melody of it is just so refreshing, especially after hearing all the previous tracks, which are kind of like pop hits. To be kind of more ballad and campy, to use like kind of a weird term for that song. It's kind of weird to describe a song as campy. But it really fits here. It really does. And I think that's intentional because Adam seems like he's in on the joke all the time. So as far as songwriting goes, like I've said 100 times trying to get to that point, I think I'm going to give it an 8. And for recording, I'm going to give it an 8.5. I think he's got some really good vocals on this. The 6th track on the album is called Surefire Winners, and it was written by David Gamsum, Alex James, and Oliver Leiber. And this is kind of just like a song about wanting to be, or about being wanted and kind of being like a sex magnet at a club. Like you're the hot one on the dance floor, like everyone kind of wants to get with you, which is kind of fun. I just love like songs like that, kind of like for your entertainment. I think they can, who doesn't love a fun, dirty song? However, I don't love this song. I think it's a little too anthemy for me and a little too repetitive. I don't particularly like the phrase surefire winners. And the amount that he repeats it in this song, I just don't like. And I think the melody is a little gimmicky here. I don't know. I just don't love it. It's not for me. So for songwriting, I'm gonna have to give it a lower score. I'm gonna give it a 5. Honestly, I just think it's a little repetitive and a little boring and a little robotic almost. I feel like songs like this are very cut and paste. Like, yeah, which is such a shame because if you're gonna have a top, like if you're gonna talk about that, I mean, I don't know, just there's so much you could do with it, make it so much more interesting and sexier, honestly, because there's not very much sex, especially, which is weird because it's a sex song. I don't know, it's very weird. Not my favorite, whatever. Feel free to disagree, but yeah, so songwriting, I'm gonna give it a 5. Recording, I don't know, I feel like he's not even into the song, and maybe that's me projecting onto him, but I just don't see it. So I'm also going to have to not give it the best score, and I'm going to give it a 5.5. The next track on the album is called A Loaded Smile and was written by Linda Perry, and it's kind of about being in a kind of take it or leave it relationship where you kind of enjoy it when you're around them, and when you're not around them, you're like kind of like whatever. I'm not really thinking about them when I'm not around them, which is more common, I feel like, than people realize. Like, if you're not thinking about the person that you're with, like, you're not that invested. I'm just gonna put that out. However, as far as the song goes, I like the songwriting a lot. I think the melody is very cool. Kind of like that hypnotic feel to it, which is fun. And although I don't know if it necessarily fits with the lyrics super well, maybe it's supposed to be kind of like a hypnotic, like, oh, I'm like, kind of like a blase thing where you're like, oh, I'm like, I don't really care either way. It's like, fine. However, I think he does such a good job recording it because it's just like the kind of the laid back feel to it, where it's like he's singing but not like full power. It's kind of just like subdued a little bit, and I think that definitely lends itself to the lyrics a lot, which kind of uplifts it and elevates the song as a whole. And I really love that. So as far as recording goes, I'm gonna have to give it probably an 8. And his vocals are very good. To be able to, I don't think people realize. I'm not a vocalist by any means, but I am a musician, and it's harder. It's sometimes a lot harder to hold back and still sound good and give that effect without like being quiet, if that makes sense. Like there's a way to hold back without being quiet. Like it's definitely a skill, and that's a lot harder to do sometimes than belting, which is kind of counterintuitive to a lot of people. But I think he does that very well here, and I really enjoy it. And it gives it a really good flavor and it adds something different to the rest of the album. But as far as songwriting goes, I also think it's a really good song. I love the lyrics here. I think it's great lyrics. The phrase "a loaded smile" is it's not a new phrase by any means, but it works so well here. And I just love the phrase "a loaded smile." But yeah, so I'm gonna give it for songwriting a 7. The 8th track on the album is called "If I Had You," the 3rd single, and it was written by Shellback, Savan, Kotecha, and Max Martin. And this song is about kind of like the chaos and wild lifestyle of being a music star, written from the point of view of Adam Lambert, I assume. But they're kind of drawn to like the love of a partner and commitment, despite having all like kind of the flash and star-studdedness of fame. I think this is such a cool song. I mean, to kind of skip ahead, the breakdown, like the bridge here is probably one of my favorite bridges ever written. I love kind of the rhythm of it is so fun to me. I don't know why, just like when he sings "Flashing of the Lights," like I just love just the way that rhythm is just so cool and it works so well with the like song and with the lyrics. I just love it for some reason. It makes so much sense. And it's a fun change of pace in the song right when you need it. Because the first part of the song is great. It's wonderful. I love it. Wonderful melodies, superb melody. It's so good. And the lyrics, I really like the lyrics, but I don't know if the phrases themselves make sense necessarily with each other. I think it's a little abstract a lot of the time, which is fine. It makes sense. Maybe that's his style and his preference, but for me, I prefer to have something make more sense and not necessarily be a metaphor constantly. I think you can get kind of like tripped up and like, what are you actually talking about? What exactly do you mean? Because I think I know what you mean, but I'm not entirely sure. But I think he starts to lose me sometimes, but like overall, I really get what he's doing. And talking about most of the time. But like I said, I think the melody's superb here. He does such a good job recording this song. It's so good. He is incredible on this track. So good, so good, so good. Don't have enough good things to say about it. So as far as songwriting goes, I'm going to give it a 9. And for recording, I'm going to give it a 9 as well. The 9th track on the album is called "Pick You Up" and it was written by Rivers Cuomo, Adam Lambert, and Greg Wells. This song, I'm not entirely sure what it's about. I think, as far as I am aware, I think what I deciphered is that it's about, like, someone who kind of is, like, severely depressed and, like, suicidal, and you realizing their potential and how great they are as a person, but you can't really tell them that, and, like, they slowly start to realize it, but through that, they kind of drift away from you as well. And you're kind of like, I just want to be with you, and I hope eventually you realize you want to be with me, but otherwise I'm happy you're still around. I don't know. I think this is such a good song. I feel like it's very underrated. His vocals on this are superb. It sounds so good. It's definitely on the punkier side of the spectrum of the album. Pop punk kind of sounds like I don't know, like a something like a Paramore or Panic at the Disco song more than I don't know, like a rocks that he kind of does today, like nowadays. But I don't know. I think it's a fun side of him that he explores in this album. I really like the song. I think the lyrics again are a little too abstract for me. The lyrics are fun and interesting, but again, I can't figure out what the song's about. I think that's a bad sign and a red flag. So as far as songwriting goes, I think the melody is good. I don't love it. I think it's good though. I'm gonna give it probably a 7. Yeah, I'll give it a 7. And for recording, I think he does a great job with it. I'm gonna give it an 8. The 10th track on the album is called Fever and is written by Rob Frossari, Jeff Basker, and Stephanie Germanata. And it's kind of just like fever euphemism or innuendo for like being horny, basically. And the song's just about wanting to sleep with someone, which again, I think is a great topic and one you can really run with, which is kind of weird because it's not like, I feel like a lot of people like, it's like, oh, it's just like a sex song, whatever. But this one, I think he finally nails it. The third sex song on the album, and he finally nails it. The rhythm here, again, the rhythm on this album, I think is so cool. He's got really cool rhythms on it, and this track specifically, again, has very good, cool rhythms. His vocals are really cool when he sings Fever, and he kind of goes up and down. So cool, so fun. Just adds a really cool element to it. Again, this is more on the rocky side of, not like Rocky Bad, but like rock-esque side of the spectrum on this album, which really works. He's obviously a very talented rock singer. I really like the song, and it's so fun. And I'm just like, once I heard this track on the album, I was like, oh, another song about sex. And it delivered. Finally, I was like, yes, like this is what I've been waiting for. Like, there were times of the charm. Like, finally you did it. And I love it. And I love the imagery of like a fever overtaking you, and like the only way to cure it is like sleeping with someone. I think it's so funny. Again, like a little tongue-in-cheek campy, but I think that's all the fun of the album. So yeah, as far as songwriting goes, I'm gonna give it 8, and for recording, I'm gonna give it an 8.5. The 11th track on the album is called Sleepwalker and is written by Ryan Tedder, Chris Lindsay, and Amy Mayo. It's Mayo, I think. And it's kind of about like feeling like a zombie after a bad breakup, like lifeless, kind of just going through the motions. Slows down a little bit again in this track, and I think I feel like it's a common phrase to be like, oh, you're like a zombie, you're walking around like a zombie, lifeless, whatever. But I don't know why, like the lyrics here really work, and it's kind of in a fresh take, and it's not like something like you're like, oh, we've heard this a million times. It's just like another iteration of that. But this definitely does something different, and the rhythms here. I don't know what he does differently than other people, but he is so good at nailing these rhythms. And maybe that's like the rock side of it, where rock, I think, is really, really digs into the rhythms more so than other genres, maybe. Maybe that's unfair to say, but I think so, and I think he does a great job here. When he just sings the phrase "sleepwalker" again, like it's just so good. So much power in it. So vocal forward, emotion forward. And I really like it. It's a very good song. One of my top songs on the album, honestly. I know it probably sounds like I love like half the songs in these, but that's definitely one of my tops. So I'm going to have to give it, for songwriting, I'm going to give it a 7.5. And for recording, I'm going to give it, honestly, an 8.5. I think he's got some really good vocals here. The 12th track on the album is called Aftermath, and it was written by Adam Lambert, Allison Porter, Eli Rise, and Ferris, the producer / songwriter. This song's kind of about trying to be a good person every day, no matter what kind of you like messed up in your past, which is always a good message. And I really like messages like that. And it's not gimmicky and preachy in any way. Starting with the beginning, as I probably should most times, I feel like when it started, I was like, oh, it starts off almost like feeling like you started it in the middle of the song. It just picks up like immediately, kind of like in a weird, like, oh, we're here, we're going in. There's no like easing you into it, which I think takes away from a little bit because you kind of have to like scramble to like get your bearings almost when you're listening to it, which might be dramatic, but I don't know. I just got that. I was like, oh, this is a little like strong coming on, kind of weird. But after a while, you're kind of like, okay, this is getting more into it. And like, I got it. Also, a negative. I don't. In the beginning, and this is kind of how I felt about what song was it that I said? Soaked. Soaked is that at first it really didn't feel like it belonged on this album, and then he kind of got into it. And when he sings in the aftermath, you're like, oh yeah, there it is. That makes sense on this album. There's Adam. And I don't know why, it just feels like it takes a second to get to him, where it kind of sounds like it could be almost like a Chris Daughtry song. I know that sounds kind of weird. That's yet another American Idol reference. It almost sounds like a Chris Daughtry song. And then when he gets into the chorus, you're kind of like, yeah, okay, this makes sense for him. And this is Adam Lambert, not Chris Daughtry, which is kind of a weird. I've never compared those two ever in my life before. I don't know. It's just so weird. I like the song, though. Lyrically, I like it a lot. Melody-wise, I think it's not the most unique thing because I'm comparing it to Chris Daughtry, and it kind of sounds like one in the beginning. I think that takes away from it. Like I'd like to see a little more uniqueness, and in the beginning is something a little bit different where you kind of ease into it, at least whether that's like just a little guitar picking in the beginning to get into it or what. It kind of starts with the guitar and him singing immediately. And it's not like soft or like leaning into it a little bit. It's just like I said, immediately in your face, which is a little weird and offsetting. But once you get into it and once you get into the first chorus, you're like, it's a very good song from then on. I really like it. I think he does a very good job with it. He's got good vocals on here. He sounds fantastic. But just the beginning is kind of a little off-putting to me. So for songwriting, I'm going to have to give it a 6. And for recording, I'm going to give it a 6.5. The last track on the album, track 13, is called Broken Open and is written by Adam Lambert, Evan Kidd, Wells Bogart, and Greg Wells. And this song is kind of about feeling able to confide in someone and be vulnerable and having the confidence and relationship to do that. I also think lyrically this is kind of like his love letter to his fans about this album, because while there's a lot of like superficial songs on here, there's also a lot of like very personal songs and lyrically a lot of personal expressions on here. So I think this is kind of his love letter to fans and listeners, being like, I appreciate being able to be so open and honest and being able to be respected and listened to by the fans and by the people that listen to it. So I really like it for that reason. And it's kind of, again, that soft mystic feeling. I don't know if that's the right word. Kind of like a weird spacey vibe that's very open and sincere. And he, again, is like singing here very softly and like subdued, but in a very sincere way, which is very beautiful. The only thing I don't love about the song is that it's over 5 minutes and it kind of loses itself at the end. It kind of is just droning on. I wish it was just a little shorter, but you know me, I'm always like, just like cut to the chase, and like, I just want like a shorter version. I don't need you to keep droning on about the same thing and giving me the same thing, because with ballads especially and songs like this, like, you're not really lyrically going very many places. You're kind of saying the same thing in different ways, and eventually it gets boring. And you're annoyed a little bit. And it's like, to be the last song and have that go on, it's like, oh, Adam, come on. But I think he does a good job singing it. I just wish it was a little different, songwriting wise, and by different I mean shorter. But as far as the melody goes, as far as the lyrics go, songwriting, I just think it's very well done. I just think it went on a little too long for me. So I probably would have cut it down a little bit, trimmed and edited it a little bit more. But I'm gonna give it a 6.5 for writing, and for recording, I think he does a very good job. So I'm gonna give him a 7.5 to round it out at the end. Okay, so looking at the album overall as a cohesive unit, I think it's a little misguided. Um, as far as the album title goes, I think it makes sense in a way. I think Adam being kind of, again, I've said, and on the joke, very self-aware. The title for your entertainment is very interesting and fitting coming from a reality competition show, and your first album is about being for other people's entertainment. Because I mean, A, you're on a reality show where you are physically entertainment. B, you're a singer who provides and creates entertainment. I think it's a very smart title. I don't love that it comes from that track that I did not like, For Your Entertainment. But separate from that, I think it's a good title, and I think it makes sense here because there's a lot of themes of being other people's entertainment and being in entertainment. Like, if I had you, what do you want from me? Surefire Winners, stuff like that. It's like about being an object of entertainment and being in entertainment, which I think is very interesting and not necessarily always relatable. However, he makes it very relatable, or at least entertaining, haha, for lack of a better word, to listen to and to understand. As far as the story goes, I don't think there is much of one. I think it's just pieces that he liked. I think the rock pop feel of it makes sense. It's definitely got that theme in it, but as far as a story, I don't think there is one. I mean, you got themes of like heartbreak and like love and stuff like that, but that's not, it's not placed and listed in an order that makes sense for a story. Maybe if you rearranged it. And I do like Broken Open at the end. I think that's fun as kind of like a thank you to the listener. I think music, again, maybe could have. I like the song. I think it's good starting out. I think if you were wanting to do a story, maybe you could start with, I don't know. I don't even know. Maybe start with For Your Entertainment, or now that I'm looking at it, maybe start with Fever, and then For Your Entertainment, and then go into something else where it's like, oh, it's about that hot, dirty sex, and then it becomes something more, and then fades away and goes back into a different relationship, or I don't know. Something like that would make sense, but the order here, I'm not getting any story, and I think, again, I've said this a million times, and I'll say it again, it's a missed opportunity if you're not creating a story with your album. In my opinion, and you're welcome to disagree, but that's my opinion on the podcast. So as far as an overall album cohesive unit, I really think this is where the points get knocked down dramatically, and I'm going to have to give it oh gosh, I'm sorry, Adam. I'm going to give it a 5.5. Overall, I just don't get it. I would really like to know what his concept was, what he was trying to do with it, what he was trying to say with it. I know he was just crying. I know one of his ideas was just to create fun pop music that people could listen to and dance to, which he succeeded. But I don't know if that's the only inspiration behind it. I think that's a little loose, and think you could have done a missed opportunity again. I've said it a million times. Just being a broken record here. Broken record of the ear, that is. So, adding all these up, the average, adding up and averaging out all the songwriting scores, it comes out to 7.38. For recording, it comes out to 7.73 and 5.5 overall, which means the album overall as a whole unit gets a 20.6, which is honestly a fairly high score, but unfortunately does not beat out the reigning record of the year, which is last week's Crimes of Passion by Pat Benatar, which if you haven't listened to that episode yet, I encourage you to go back and listen to it. It's a great album. I also encourage you to listen to that album as well. But yeah, feel free to go ahead and check that out. Good effort, Adam. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't think you stood a chance against Pat Benatar. I mean, she's literally a living legend, as you are. But yeah, I mean, I just think you have time to curate a better album, and I think you've got plenty of good stuff ahead of you still. So that being said, I encourage you to go back and listen to the album again. And did I change your mind? Do you understand songs better? Did I make it so you don't understand the songs at all? Feel free to just let me know your opinions. Reach out on Instagram at Record of the Ear Podcast. That's year without the Y on Instagram. And you're also welcome to leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That helps me out a lot, and I would really appreciate it if you did leave me a review there. So I can get more reviews. I think I only have 2 reviews right now, which makes sense because I have almost no listeners. But if you could please also share the podcast, I would really appreciate it. Again, feel free to reach out on Instagram and let me know your opinions on whatever track it is. Let me know also what albums you want me to listen to. Also, on that topic, starting next week, I'm going to dedicate the whole month of May to local Kentucky artists. There's a lot of good talent in Kentucky, which is where I currently live. And I just want to showcase their talent in honor and as an excuse, using the Kentucky Derby as an excuse for that month. I don't have all of the albums I'm going to do, but I think I have most of them, and I think you guys would really like the albums. I love a lot of these people, and most of them I've seen live, so I know actually all of them, except for one so far, I've listened to live multiple times. So yeah, tune in for that. That should be fairly interesting. I'm very excited to do that. Yeah. Anyways, well, I encourage you to go out and buy the album for your entertainment. Help out Adam Lambert. I always encourage people to do that instead of just streaming, because streaming pays next to nothing for the artist. Purchasing the album does wonders, like leaps and bounds more than streaming does. But if that's all you can do, that's all you can do. But that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.